Most arguments are not about truth, they are about control. The moment you try to win logically, you've already lost psychologically, because the one who controls emotion, timing, and silence controls the outcome. Tonight I'll give you 7 verbal weapons used by rulers, strategists, and minds that never argued twice. Use them once, and watch people stop challenging you altogether. Most people believe arguments are won by being louder, smarter, or more aggressive. That belief alone is why they keep losing. The moment emotion enters your voice, your control disappears. True dominance in any confrontation begins with restraint. When someone challenges you, insults you, or tries to corner you verbally, your instinct may be to strike back immediately. Resist it. Instead, become still. Calmness is not weakness. It is a psychological position of power. The human mind is deeply unsettled by composure in the face of provocation. When the other person speaks, listen carefully, not to respond, but to capture their exact words. Then repeat them back, slowly, clearly, without changing a single meaning. Remove all emotion from your tone. Do not mock. Do not exaggerate. Just mirror. This is where the shift happens. People are comfortable expressing thoughts when they believe they own them, but hearing those same thoughts spoken back by someone else strips away that comfort. It forces self-awareness, and self-awareness is uncomfortable for an aggressive mind. By repeating their words, you are not agreeing and you are not defending yourself. You are placing their statement under a spotlight. Suddenly, they are no longer attacking you. They are confronting their own thinking. The brain instinctively begins to reevaluate. Doubt creeps in. They start to wonder how they sound, how they look, and how they are being perceived. That moment of internal questioning is where power quietly changes hands. Silence is the final piece of this move. After you mirror their words, stop talking. Do not explain. Do not clarify. Let the silence stretch. Silence forces the other person to fill the space, and people reveal far more than they intend when they try to escape discomfort. They may backtrack, soften their tone, over-explain, or grow defensive. Every reaction exposes weakness, not because you attacked them, but because you allowed them to attack themselves. This technique works because the human ego is fragile. It feeds on reaction. When denied that reaction, it begins to collapse inward. Aggression needs resistance to justify itself. Without resistance, it loses direction. You remain calm, centered, unshaken, while the other person begins to lose control of their own narrative. In their mind, the argument is no longer about winning. It becomes about survival. The most dangerous aspect of this approach is how clean it is. There are no insults to regret, no emotional outburst to apologize for, no evidence of hostility. On the surface, you appear reasonable, composed, even fair. Yet beneath that calm exterior, the psychological balance has shifted completely. You are no longer participating in the argument. You are observing it. Over time, people remember how they felt in moments like this. They remember the discomfort, the exposure, the loss of certainty. And unconsciously, they associate that feeling with challenging you. That is why they hesitate next time. Not because you were aggressive, but because you were untouchable. Most people sabotage themselves in arguments by talking too much. They believe that the more they explain, the stronger their position becomes. In reality, excessive words signal uncertainty. When you feel the urge to justify, defend, or over-clarify, you are subconsciously admitting that your position needs approval. Power never asks to be understood. Power states and waits. Short sentences work because the human brain is trained to respect clarity. When someone delivers a long explanation, the listener starts searching for weaknesses, contradictions, and emotional leaks. But when a statement is brief, firm, and complete, the mind has nothing to grab onto. It feels final, like a closed door. That finality is intimidating. In heated moments, emotions rise and logic drops. This is where short sentences dominate. While the other person is fueled by momentum, you cut through it with precision. One sentence, no filler, no emotion, no extra context. This sudden shift disrupts their rhythm, for they were prepared for a fight, not a verdict. Silence after a short sentence is what turns it into a weapon. When you speak briefly and stop, the other person is forced to respond, and that response almost always weakens their position. They either talk too much, revealing insecurity, or they grow defensive, revealing loss of control. The silence becomes pressure, and pressure exposes cracks. Short sentences also place you in the role of authority. Leaders give concise orders. Judges deliver brief rulings. Those in command do not ramble. The brain associates brevity with status. When you reduce your words, you elevate your presence. You appear calm, decisive, and above the chaos of the argument. This technique requires discipline. The hardest part is resisting the urge to say more. Ego wants the last word. Power wants the last effect. When you choose restraint, you deny the other person emotional fuel. They expected resistance. You gave resolution. That contrast makes them feel small, without you ever trying to dominate them openly. Another psychological effect of short sentences is interpretation. When you leave space, people fill it with their own fears and assumptions. A long explanation guides their thoughts. A short statement lets their imagination work against them. They replay your words. They question your meaning. They wonder if you know something they don't. Uncertainty grows, and with it, submission. Used consistently, this approach changes how people engage with you. They begin to prepare their words more carefully. They hesitate. They think twice before challenging you, not because you are aggressive, but because every exchange feels one-sided. They expend energy. You conserve it. Mastery of short sentences is mastery of control. It is not about winning the argument in the moment. It is about shaping how people perceive you afterward. When the conversation ends, they are still thinking. You are already gone. That imbalance is dominance. Most people believe confrontation requires opposition. They think strength comes from pushing back harder, denying the other side, or proving them wrong as quickly as possible. This instinct is exactly what keeps arguments alive. Direct resistance triggers ego, and once ego is activated, logic becomes irrelevant. The mind stops listening and starts defending. The smarter approach is not to resist at all, at least not at first. Agreement is disarming. When you acknowledge part of what the other person says, their internal guard drops. Even a small agreement creates psychological relief. It signals safety. The brain relaxes because it no longer feels attacked. In that relaxed state, people become open, receptive, and vulnerable without realizing it. This is the moment where control quietly shifts. The key is precision. You do not fully agree, and you do not surrender your position. You agree just enough to lower defenses. A simple acknowledgement, measured, calm, and sincere, is enough. This makes the other person feel seen and validated. And when people feel understood, they stop fighting for dominance. They believe they are winning, which is why they stop protecting themselves. Then comes the pause. Silence here is not accidental. It is calculated. The pause creates tension and expectation. The other person leans forward mentally, waiting for confirmation, waiting for full alignment. Their confidence grows in that brief moment. Scarcity creates value. Value creates authority. Many fear that walking away means losing the argument publicly. In truth, observers rarely remember who spoke last. They remember who looked composed. They remember who remained unaffected. Emotional control is what people subconsciously respect. When one person stays heated and the other disengages calmly, the audience instinctively assigns power to the one who left. There is also a deeper psychological effect at play. By exiting, you deny the other person the opportunity to win. No victory moment, no domination, no satisfaction. This creates frustration, and frustration weakens confidence. The next time they consider challenging you, their mind recalls that unresolved tension. Hesitation appears, and hesitation changes behavior. Walking away is not about fear of conflict. It is about choosing battles that serve you. Power is selective. It does not explain itself to everyone. It does not linger where respect is absent. It moves on. In the end, arguments are only sustained when both sides agree to participate. The moment you withdraw, calmly, deliberately, without apology, the argument dies. Not because it was solved, but because it was rendered irrelevant. And nothing wounds the ego more deeply than realizing it no longer matters. Arguments end when one side realizes they no longer have power over you. These aren't comebacks. They are psychological shutdowns. Use them carefully. Because once people feel powerless around you, they don't argue again. They comply.